picture of Sig Salts.
Oh, God.
Woo!
Roy,
Thank you so much.
yeah, I think Roy wants to say a few words.
Can you hear me? Yes. Well, many years ago, the first focus group that we ever had was in 1957. And it was in my office at the Home Arts Guild because an ad agency that wanted to start focus groups wondered if we could have one, but where would we do it? So they took my office. The moderator brought a Wallensack recorder, which those of you who are old-timers know that was the way you recorded your focus groups. And the women sat around in chairs. We gave them coffee, and for the 2 hours, they did get $1.50. Those days are gone forever. Later on, a lot of my clients were psychologists. They worked for like J. Walter Thompson. They wanted to get into focus groups. And they said at the University of Chicago, we had one-way mirrors so we could observe the subjects being interviewed. Could you do it? Well, our lease was about up on Lake Street. We were about to move to another facility. And so I said, okay, we'll put one-way mirrors in. But we don't want anyone to know. So we put one-way mirrors in. You want to see the first one-way mirror ever? I'll be sure I don't break it. There's the first one-way mirror.
Nice.
That's it. The size of the room, the observation room, was from here to about here. There were two mirrors, one on this side and one on that side, looking into the room. We had plants like mother-in-law tongues in front. We put the microphones on fake vents, and so the women didn't know that they were being observed. And we thought we were being very clever. Only two people could observe. One person on a high chair at this mirror, one person on a high chair at this mirror, and anyone else was out of luck. They just sat there in the dark and they listened. Well, I do have a picture. I know you won't be able to see it, but it's me looking through that one-way mirror. I don't know if you can see that. Okay?
Can we pass it around? Can we pass it around?
Well, if you want to. Claire Viverito, who was a member of MRA for years with the Quaker Oats, and she asked me in the 60s if I would go to Waldorf Astoria to the MRA annual meeting and give a talk on central location facilities, which we were the very first, of course, in the world. And I did, and I had slides, and I showed the one-way mirror, and there were gasps in the audience, and hands went up. Isn't that illegal? Aren't you spying on people? 10 years later, everyone had one. So, at first, people, you know, and I'll never forget when I was in the room where a moderator told the ladies, the first time this ever happened, and I just fainted almost. Ladies, that's a one-way mirror, and you're being listened to. And the reason is, our clients couldn't come into the room. It'd be a distraction. So they want to listen. They want to see you and listen to you, and the women accepted it, just like they did when we started videotaping. And before you could videotape through a one-way mirror, you had to go in the room, videotape, put a lot of bright lights in, and the distraction was for 2 minutes. Once the group got started, people forgot about it. So, that's the one-way mirror story. The second story, as Sig said, was about the computerized database. And I wrote an article in Viewpoint. That was a very scholarly MRA publication. It only lasted a couple of years. It was more like an AMA journal for PhDs. So they had a lot of things that really nobody would be too interested in the MRA, but I wrote one about how you can now computerize your database, and took people step by step, showing them the eventual card that would come out. As soon as microcomputers came in, we realized that we didn't have to use the little cards anymore, and we could put all this in the computer. And when people wanted dog owners who were between this age and that age, had so many children at home, was in this income bracket, you press a few buttons and out would come a dump of computer dump, and you could start calling these people. And that was the start of a computerized database. And that made life a lot easier for us, and eventually for all of you people who have your own facilities. But it was a necessity. I mean, that's where invention is the mother of necessity. I just made that up. Okay? So I just want to say I'm very grateful for this Lifetime Achievement Award. I woke up early this morning and said, what could I say and for how long? And then I said, gee, I really started in research when I was 6 years old, when my parents took me to the Century of Progress World's Fair in Chicago. We went to my dad's office and we had lunch, and the women were there tasting 2 different things and filling out a questionnaire. And that was my first brush with consumer research, so I grew up with it. Every time I went down to my dad's place, I grew up with it. And I just want to close with one anecdote, because a lot of people say, what does Home Arts Guild mean? Well, my dad said the Home Arts Guild meant that you would invite different women's clubs up every day. They would come up, a different women's club would come up to the Home Arts Guild and learn the home arts of cooking and house, and homemaking, homemaker. That's what all the women practically were, homemakers. They didn't have jobs in the 30s, and the early 40s. So I'm 80 years old. Keep that in mind. At any rate, the Home Arts Guild had the same luncheon every day. Every day, because you signed up for a year. If you were Kraft Salad Dressings, you signed up for a year. If you were United Fruit Company and we served banana fritters, you signed up for a year, and you could renew. And they served banana fritters for 25 years. And if you worked at the Home Arts Guild, it was the same luncheon every day. Well, one of the famous ministers in Chicago was Dr. Preston Bradley. And if you're an old-timer, you listened to his radio show and you knew that he had a church on the north side. And he was a big man, and my dad was a big man. And he was at the luncheon with his church group, and he noticed that my dad was just picking at his food. And Dr. Bradley said, you don't feel well, are you ill? He said, no. He said, well, this is a good meal, I'm really enjoying it. Well, Dr. Bradley, it's the same meal for me. Day in, day out, year after year. And Dr. Bradley started searching his mind. I have a biblical quotation. Wait till I leave, please, and look up Hebrews 13:8. My dad couldn't wait till he left. He looked through the Bible. Hebrews 13:8 said, Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever. That was the Home Arts Guild. Thank you very much. Watch me break the mirrors as I trip down.